Welcome to macro photography. Through this video I'll be looking at a few ways that you can take photos closer. Three techniques I'll be looking at are the water drop technique, clip-on lenses and standard camera macro settings. First of all, the water drop microscope. All you need to do here is place a small drop of water, clean water, on your camera lens. This is the lens on the front of your camera as though you're filming yourself taking a selfie. Put the camera down on a solid surface. When I say camera, of course I mean phone. And turn on to selfie mode so you can see the front screen. It's possible you can do this with the lens underneath. I've not been able to make that work, but if you look at these videos here, you'll see some people have been able to do that. You can get these links from the Photography VLE where you'll find a copy of this file. Solid surface, switch to selfie mode, then turn on a timer. When you press the button to take the photograph, the camera will shake slightly and that will cause the water drop to shake and that will distort your picture. So you need to make sure it's still. So a 2 or 3 second timer will stop that happening. And then you need to support your hand with the object. With this pen I rested it on a lid and held it with my hand, and with the other hand I could take the photo. And there's been very little editing to this afterwards. There's a little bit of sharpening, playing around with the contrast. And the lens flare in the middle of the picture is added. But all the more random flares around the outside are part of the actual picture. But that's how close I could get with a simple water drop. These pictures are taken with the same technique and are about the same scale to each other. So you can see from the ruler in the middle how large a centimetre is. So the teeth on this saw are about 3 or 4 millimetres apart at best. And the paintbrush itself was about 2 centimetres long. These plants were taken outside, again bringing the plants to a table where I had the camera set up. But because of slight breezes, they are likely to wobble. And the best thing to do with that is obviously take lots of photos, wait for the wind to die down, find a more secluded corner of your garden perhaps where there's plenty of light above you. And when you've done a little bit of editing again, Photo P, or in this case I did it in PowerPoint, just add a little bit of sharpening, boost the colours up a touch. And this shows the settings in PowerPoint that I've used. Sharpen this at about 20%, brightness as much as little as you need, contrast again about 20%. And in this case, I oversaturated the picture to 400%, which made all the colours come out blobby. But it looked a bit like watercolour, so it's quite a nice effect. So it's worth experimenting and seeing what effects you can come up with. Next are the clip-on lenses. These vary in price. You can, for about £3 you'll get a basic set of, let's say, 3 interchangeable lenses. You'll get a macro, a super macro and possibly a fisheye. In this case we'll be using the super macro. You can spend more, but you wouldn't want to spend more than £15, and in that way you'd end up with a whole load of different lenses. So it's worth having a look at. It's fairly cheap and you can order these online and get them delivered. Unlike the water drop, they don't quite get as close on the actual shot, but on the other hand they're cleaner, sharper pictures. You can zoom in later to get to a similar magnification. But they do seem flatter, they don't seem to have the sort of life that the water drop has. Not as artistic, but for nice clean photography they're perfect, and they're probably the easiest thing you can do. All these things are around about a centimetre in size. The stone with the fossil is about a centimetre, and that's in keeping with the size of the spider. Again, it was quite small. With the feather, it's feather duster, which is why it's pink. This was, you can't tell how big it is because it's become abstracted. So the closer you get, the more abstraction you can make. This could be a chrysanthemum, but it's not, it's a dandelion. Again, it's so big I think it would otherwise be, and you get to see a lot more detail than you would otherwise notice. Now on standard cameras you've got various macro settings. You'll have these possibly on your phone as well. But with a lot of cameras, you can see mine down there, it's a bridge camera. And it has a macro setting and a super macro. The macro setting gets you nice and close, the super macro will get you that bit closer. When I took this picture of this orange, just wanting to experiment, I was happy enough with the picture. I haven't edited it, but you can see a lot of background in there. So I decided I wanted to get rid of that, and rather than cutting the orange out or deleting the background, it's simpler to lay the orange and the camera on a piece of paper, the end of which is wedged up on something. This is called an infinity wall. It's the same thing we'll do when taking portraits in the studio when we bring the paper down from the ceiling onto the floor. It takes away the background detail. So I've taken the same orange and then an apple, and all I've done is a little bit of contrast, a little bit of sharpening, played with the brightness, and other than that just cropped the image down to get rid of any background elements. But I've not had to do any cloning or anything to get rid of the background. The white paper takes care of that. These are the same. And these were taken not in this holiday some while back, but I've been looking for a ladybird to take because they are such a standard size. You know how far you're zoomed in. When you take some other kind of bug or beetle, you don't quite know how big it is, but with ladybird they tend to be the same, so you can see how close I've got. And this wasp was taken last summer. And I took several, and they didn't come out as sharp as this, but this one just happened to be right on a bright sunny day. The wasp was eating a bit of apple, and it just captured it really well. This is where you take many photos, so you've got a choice of sharp and blurry ones to choose from. This is an oversized daisy, so I've not got in that much closer. But the thing that macro will do, as with any close-up photography, is it blurs out the background. And when you're in really close, it blurs the foreground as well, and that's quite a nice effect. The spider was taken some time ago because you can see a copy of it on my wall in B14. And to the right is a dandelion head. This is just this general standard macro setting on the camera. By accident, I got this to work with the super macro setting. I just wanted to see how close I'd get, and as I was getting closer, the orange rolled towards the camera. And as I have a UV filter on the front of the lens, the orange stopped there. And where it went out of focus initially, as it got right close, it suddenly came back into focus and gave me this incredible sharpness. It has its problems in that it overexposes in the way that my camera is set up at the moment to focus on the centre part of the picture and take its exposure from there, and it meant that the outsides went overexposed. But it made quite a good dramatic effect. This is just a knot in a fence panel. And if something's more 3D, you get all that light coming in from the side, but if it's flat, you're in danger of disappearing into shadow. But with a bit of processing, you can lighten that up again. What I quite find interesting in this picture is all the tubes come out the crack. I'm trying to figure out, are they part of the original plant system that would take various planted juices up and down the branches, or is it some other organism living inside? So there are the three techniques we can look at: water drop, clip-on lenses, standard camera, macro settings. Give them a go.